came in and beat me up. And that's when I said no.
Mm.
Called the police.
Mm.
The person was taken away, and that was the beginning of our separation.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if you are from an African
Mm-hmm.
background,
Mm-hmm.
you know how separation and divorce is viewed. So everyone is like, no, 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 this, you can work this out, you can work this out, you can work. But I remember saying, no, you guys don't know what I've been through.
Definitely not. And that's how they started, shaming the victim.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't know what I've been through. And again, unfortunately, the woman, the wife, is in the wrong. And I'll tell you what even made it even worse was the Bible verses being quoted for me, that the woman is the one that keeps the home. It was the whole burden was on me.
I can imagine, really.
I will never get married. I will never get a relationship, because if this is what a relationship looks like, this is death. This is, I saw my mother constantly being put down, being beaten, sleeping outside, horrible stuff, right? And then obviously the person did the same to us. And I was thinking, I don't want this, right? But then here is where biology comes in.
I love that.
It does, because I went to college, I started thinking, actually, I can make a life for myself. It doesn't have to be that way. I can change something. I'm going to be different. So obviously I got into relationships, right? And unfortunately, mother, let me tell you the danger of actually not healing from the trauma that we've endured. You meet with other people who are in the same level. When they say birds of a feather flock together, it's not just a nice saying. It's a very spiritual and a very scientific.
So you practically attracted someone who has the same wound and pain as you?
Absolutely.
Right.
And that is what we call trauma bonding, right? At that time, of course, you don't know, you are feeling in love. Someone is telling you all the nice things, and you're also, you're feeling special for the first time, you grew up somewhere, people dismissing you, people treating you like rubbish and all that. But now you come here, you're feeling the love, and also your body, our bodies. Let's be honest, guys. I think everyone that's listening here is over 13, right? We have those bodily desires, right? And that is for women, is to be wanted by a man. You feel, let's say, their sexual feelings, right? And the man also has the same, right? And that is a very biological thing, because that is how we end up procreating. Because if we didn't have that, we would not procreate. But so anyway, here I'm in love and everything. And then, I didn't realize. Now, when I look back, the relationship was toxic from day one. And it's things like, someone following you to find out where you are, someone, someone appearing in places where they shouldn't be, but
Hi everyone. It's me here, Imelda on Inspire. As usual, I bring you some inspiration, stories. I bring you phenomenal ladies. So I have one today. So, without further ado, I am going to introduce our guest today. And by the way, for the new viewers, please do subscribe to this channel. It's going to be a massive, massive support to the Inspire community. And give us a comment if you have already subscribed. Just encourage us, just keep us moving. That would be an amazing, absolute amazing thing for you to do. So, yeah. I have a great, great lady here, and she's going to introduce herself to the viewers. She's an amazing, if you can read at the background, raising remarkable teenagers, can you imagine that? She's an amazing lady, and trust me, you're gonna love hearing her story. Angie, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Amaka. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We don't take you for granted, and we are going to have a great show. And I can tell you, I don't know what a mother is going to be asking me, but I know we will flow nicely.
Definitely, definitely. You know what? I haven't prepared. I know it's gonna be an amazing, So Angie, introduce again yourself to the viewers, what you do, who you are, and for the new viewers, obviously for all of us, because it's your first time on Inspire. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Angela Karanja, and I am an adolescent psychologist. I work with parents of teenagers, and I work with teenagers as well. And my job really is to help parents. Uh, you parent, including myself actually, because I'm learning as well. I have a young person as well to raise highly effective teenagers without losing our minds. So this is um, this is my space, and I have worked with young people for over 20 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and I am continuously doing research as a psychologist just to bring us cutting edge. Because as parents, I believe we are leaders, and leaders are learners.
Mm-hmm. That's an amazing, introduction. Thank you so much, Angie. And having worked with young people for over 20 years, looking at you, you look very young. And I'm like, oh my God, at what age did she start? Anyway, forget about that. So don't tell us how old you are, but what what was that kind of drive? What driven you to that kind of, sector, kind of, what really brought up your passion to work with young people and to actually empower parents to be able to raise the remarkable generation?
I think this was my, I always say, your life experiences bring you to your point of service.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I know we've talked with you, Amartha, about my background. I was born in Kenya under
Mm-hmm.
extremely impoverished circumstances. And then there was a lot of abuse in the family.
Mm.
And I remember when I was about 10 years old, I encountered a teacher, and this was a temporary teacher that came. I think I'm never able to tell where she came from because I've never seen her again. I've never even heard of her. I've
Mm.
looked for her for years because I would love to just hold her and say to her, you changed the trajectory of my life.
Mm.
So in
What
those
did she do to it?
circumstances,
What happened again?
yeah,
What did
in
that teacher
those
do?
circumstances,
Mm.
when dire circumstances, when you're hungry, and
Mm.
I don't know, those of you who have been to Africa, or those of you who know some of the circumstances that the people in the village live in,
Mm.
and even those of you that have watched the adverts
Mm.
of these girls walking miles and miles and miles going to fetch water.
Mm-hmm.
That was me at some point. right? And I remember walking to school miles and miles. Of course, we didn't have shoes. Please don't ask whether we had shoes. And the worst thing was we didn't even have food. So you're walking all that way, no food in your tummy. You're just existing, really, right?
Yeah.
And that was the life of everyone's. But at the age of 10, that teacher came to our school. I believe she had come from university or from because she said the first day she came, she said that, first of all, when I saw her, I had never seen anyone like that in the village. She had clean shoes. She had nice clothes. She had, and I was like, whoa, she looked like a goddess to me, right? That's only what we had read in books. And here is the kicker. Even better was that she was so nice, because when she came to classes, she leaned in, she listened to us. And then it was lunchtime when she said, oh, if you want to come with me, right? I want to hang out with you, right? And because I already had admired her, I thought I'll be the first one in line, right? So I went out, and she was so nice. Miss Kamal was so nice, right? And then one of the things she did, which most teachers don't do, in fact, her experience with her has taught me to be a human person. Sometimes we let our professions get in the space of being human. What she did was contrary to what many teachers do, right? You don't want to hang out with the kids, and she said to me, do you want to share my food? Of course I wanted to share her food, right? I was this kid who had not eaten, so I was hungry, and she shared the food, and I ate it, and I was like, woo, this is like heaven, right? So the next day, when she asked whether anyone wants to go and hang out with her, and for me, it was a no-brainer first, because I liked her. In fact, even more because I knew I might just get some food, right? So I went there, and I think her connection with me, she started talking about stuff, and she said that there was once she was exactly like us. And that began, when something begins to open, you're like, there's a hope, right? And for me, I was like, wow, you mean
You can
someone who
relate.
has been, someone who has been in my shoes, like, well, of course not in my shoes, I can't say in my shoes, someone who has been in my place, this miserable, this hungry, this, this hopelessness, actually make it to be like this, it gave me hope, right? And I remember now, and this went on, and she would share a lot of her experiences, And I'll tell you something. My encounter with Miss Kamau is actually the very thing that has contributed to a model that I use with parents, and that's it's a framework because of who she is. Of course, I've gone on to study, I've done research and everything, but my encounter with her has made me develop this framework, which I call the 3M framework.
And what does 3M, what does that stand for?
It stands for modeling, and then mentoring, and then motivating. Because what Miss Kamau did for me, right? She modeled. This is someone I looked up where I thought, I want to be like this, right? And then, remember, she was kind. She was going against the grain, hanging out with us, making me feel seen, making me feel valued, making me feel heard, which which is something as children we didn't get to feel, but it's a desire that we all have as human beings, right? So there was the modeling, and then there was the mentoring. Remember I said to you, she shared her experiences with us. And in sharing those experiences, which is what mentoring is about, it's about the authenticity and sharing your experiences that inspire. And then there's the motivating. Now I'll tell you how she came to the motivating bit. She started telling us that we too could make it. Words are very powerful, especially to impressionable minds. And she said, I remember before she left, she said, Angela, do you know there's a school that if you go there, you can have 3 meals a day? I didn't even know such things existed. You know, you're coming from this really impoverished, small-minded place. Unless someone actually opens your mind, how would I know better, right? So and I was like, what? You mean there's something like that? And then she said, and you know, if you work your best, you could go to that school.
Right.
And I tell you what, Amata, Miss Kamau left at the end of that term. But what she had sowed in me, which is what motivation is. Motivation is sowing those seeds that then bloom within you, and they grow. It's words that have life, you know? And I just worked my best. And I'm telling you, I actually went to that school. I had no doubt that that is how much I believed. And it was not a small, short school in Kenya. It was a national school. And for me, that changed the trajectory of my life. Now,
so you worked very hard to get admitted in a school because it was offering 3 meals a day.
Oh yeah, that was my main driving thing, you know. That was my main driver at that time, right? And you asked me how I started working with young people. At that point, I believed that indeed we can make a difference in other people's life. Remember, Miss Kamau, she didn't give me any money. She didn't do anything for me, but she imbued life in me. And that is one thing sometimes we miss those opportunities to imbue life with young people, and also with people, just people that we come across.
Yes.
And I think unconsciously I made a decision that this is how I'm going to live my life. That any connection that I have with someone, I'm going to be adding life. Now, when I obviously I went to high school, to the high school, but here's the thing, right? Remember, my parents couldn't afford to take me there. So that was another big problem. Yeah, I think that's a story for another day.
So how did you go about it? That's an interesting story. I want to know how you managed to get it there if your parents really couldn't afford.
Yeah. So anyway, what happened was once I passed, right? You can imagine it's a national school. It's a boarding school as well. So what is this person supposed to do? The kid has passed. Here's the good thing. I don't know whether you know, there was those things called Harambee in Kenya, right?
I hear about them.
Yeah, people come together, loads of people, and they contribute.
They support each other.
They support. So that is what happened for me to go to high school, right? And I went. But this won't last for long, because the villagers, first of all, they can't keep doing that for me, right? They can't keep doing that for me. And my parents cannot afford, right? And so what do I do, right? I missed school a lot of times I was out of school for for many sessions because I
Because
was
you
always being asked to go home, go
get school
home.
fees.
Yeah, for school fees.
Mm,
Initially, what I used to do, I would go home and then go work in people's farms,
mm,
right? But you tell me, how much can a small kid earn?
no, very.
Not a lot. And
Mm,
obviously, even people, they exploit you, right? When I look back, I think, gosh, I was being exploited, you know?
mhm. True.
And here I am working so hard, right?
Mm,
I remember one time working in a coffee farm,
mm,
and they said, oh, you've got to work and gather these bags of coffee to be paid this amount. And you know, I worked my backside off, right? But do you know, I got paid way less than the grown-ups that were working in the same field.
mm.
Now, when I reflect on the gosh, this was child exploitation, you know. But
Definitely was, yeah.
at that time, I didn't know I was so desperate to get money so I
Mm,
could go back to school, right?
mm,
Anyway, I took that money to school, which wasn't a lot. I can't even remember. It was a couple of hundreds.
mm-hmm,
And you know, a couple of hundreds is nothing.
mm,
But it was something because I went back,
mm-hmm,
I gave it to the bursar, and again, I stayed on. But then after another week, 2 weeks, I was
mm,
told to go back home.
mm,
Mother, you know what I decided? What's the point of going home?
mm,
What I just decided, what's the point of going home? And what
mm,
this is what I would do as a teenager.
mm-hmm,
I decided I'm not gonna go home anymore. What they would chase me. I'll go, get out of the gate. But then I would hang out the gate, hang out there,
mm,
and then come back at some point and just sneak back in
mm,
and just carry on. And then obviously they would notice at some point I'm back and wonder, you still owe the school. And then they would, so it was a cat and mouse game for me at that time.
mm,
And because I wondered, what is a child supposed to do, right?
mm, mm.
And anyway, the good thing is I finished high school.
You finished in
And
those conditions of like being chased to work for some money, come continue. You finished in the same school. Did you change?
oh yeah, I finished in the same school. I
Mm,
was so determined. Of course, I got some good grades,
mm-hmm,
but I believe if it wasn't for those, and this is not an excuse,
mm,
right? If it, I'm just saying what I believe. I believe that if it weren't for those conditions, I would probably have done better.
of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
So this is what I did after I finished school.
mm,
As you can imagine, I finished. So that for me was like, whew,
a
this
relief.
phase is over. I don't
Mm,
have to play this cat and mouse
mm,
over, you know, over this, you know.
mm,
So I mean, to go to college or university or anything, even though I had passed, of course I can't. Why? Again, the parents cannot afford.
what a journey.
So
Yeah.
what do I do?
Mm,
I thank God for for a child's curiosity, for a child's creativity. And I believe it comes from God.
true.
I had favor. I had favor because at
Mm,
around that time when I was wondering what to do,
mm,
I used to have my an auntie that lived in Thika. I don't know. You guys, some of you may know, or you can Google it. It's okay. My school actually was in Thika, right?
mm,
But
mm,
but my auntie also used to live there. Now, so we're talking about my family now back in the village, and
mm,
as I said to you guys, it was not a nice experience to be there. It was not a nice um, environment. And I'll tell you something. Looking back, I know now, obviously, in my position as a psychologist, I know now
mm,
why I had certain problems. they were based on trauma, right? For example, I was wetting bed until I was about 14 years old. Kids stop wetting the bed, when they're little. I was wetting and now I know it was because of fear. You are so afraid of what's going to happen. There was a lot of, like I said to you, there was a lot of abuse in the family. So that fear kept me, it kept me wetting bed until in my teen years, right? And then there was things like, I remember having wounds that would not heal quickly. And obviously the doctors didn't know what, and this, I just want to mention that there are some conditions that our children suffer, or even grown-ups suffer, because of anxiety, because of mental
past experience.
Yeah, because of mental mental experiences. And these are what we call psychosomatic disorders. The doctors cannot explain, medical doctors cannot explain, because they are not physical. They of course, I was wetting my bed. That was, everyone knew I was wetting my bed. But what is the reason for a big kid to do that, and also another thing I used to have is constipation. A lot of constipation. Again, when I look back, at that time I didn't know. I thought it was just, right? But now I know, and I say to parents sometimes, especially when our young people are in fear, when our young people are disturbed, some of these things will come. They are based in the mind, right? They're based in the brain, and then they manifest on the body. You have kids having stomach aches, right? You have kids having headaches. You have kids having rashes, right? Which the doctors can't explain what that is for, right? And I believe, as parents, of course, my parents at that point, again, when I speak about them, I want you to hear my heart, because I am not saying they were bad. What I'm saying is what they did was not good. It is bad. So I'm separating them and their behavior because they did not know any better. Because as Maya Angelou says, when we know better, we do better, right? So they were operating from their level of consciousness. And that's why I say a lot of us who are brought up in that situation, we need to unlearn. Because if we don't, we're going to do the exact same thing for our kids. You will hear parents saying, oh, beating my kids or abusing them is nothing. Even I was abused and nothing happened. I'm okay. I'm alive. No, you're not okay, actually. Even for you to say that you're okay,
it's a problem.
It's not okay, right? That is not how we're supposed to be kind. We're supposed to be compassionate, right? And that does not mean control. It has nothing with controlling anyone, including our kids. And I want you, and I know this is not a religious session, but I want you to think about, I like to speak to parents about God, our Father, right? God, our Father, is a loving God, right? He's also our friend. He's full of compassion, right? He's full, he wants to give us everything good, right? So when we are parenting, I always ask parents are you behaving like God? That you are shining the light, or you are raining on the good and the bad, right? Do you see? So I always ask myself, and also we know that God God is always he's I mean, think about someone like Jesus, right? Not condemning, always asking people to reason with him. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. This
Yeah.
is, that is what I ask parents to do. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's
That's a,
go
that's a
about
very that's a very good observation and a great remark, obviously. But you finished high school, now you're going to college, right? So, and your parents still do not have means, and you still want to go to college. Did you make it? What was that journey like?
right. So what happened was,
Mm.
oh, can you still hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. Oh, yeah, I can see you
I'm
back.
back, right. Yeah, I thought I froze. I saw myself freeze. So
Mm,
I didn't go to college. I
mm,
didn't go to higher education at that time.
mm,
But what I did was begin to look for work. And because of my extroverted personality, and
mm,
one of the things I learned to do a long time ago, even in that village,
mm.
was to communicate. In fact, this is the first time my brothers know this, but this is the first time I'm actually telling everyone, the world.
Mm,
I used to listen to, there was some neighbor who used to have a radio cassette. You
mm.
guys, I don't know if any of you will
I know
recognize.
it. I know it those days.
Yeah. And I would listen to people, like newscasters talking,
Mm,
like, and I would say, wow, that
mm,
is a different kind of the way they spoke the English. And I was
mhm,
like, whoa, I want this. And secretly what I used to do,
mm,
I would say to that person
mm.
that I could borrow his cassette, and then I used to record like record myself and then listen to hear if I'm speaking like that person. And it was BBC World, I remember. Yeah. It
Mhm,
used to come, and I used to do it very secretly because, first of all, I was already weird. Remember, I was already weird
mhm,
because when after my encounter with Miss Kamau,
mm,
I became something else. I, I began to think, if I'm going to that school,
mm,
I'm gonna be be the embodiment of that school, right? She's,
mm,
that's a place where people speak posh. I mean, that was my thinking because
mm,
Miss Kamau spoke, she was well spoken and all that. So I began to do that and I began to practice because when I went to high school,
mm,
people could not put together how I was speaking, my diction, my all that, and obviously the way I looked. The way I looked, I was, I I looked obviously impoverished. When it was visiting days, no one came to visit me. When
mhm,
everyone was having all these nice things, I didn't have it,
mm.
but I spoke like I spoke like I spoke like something was being like someone else was speaking through me, right? And this again is it brings me to that point of like personal development, self-development, because I believe if you develop yourself, if you develop you as a person,
Mm.
everything else will come. It must come at some point, right?
That's true. That's
It
true.
must come at some point, right?
Mm,
Because I the kingdom is inside out, right? So if you're growing yourself, if you're growing yourself within, it's like a tree. Once you cultivate within yourself, the fruits will come out at some point.
mm,
They
mm.
must come out, right?
Definitely.
And that is the beauty. But at that time, I didn't know that. But I had the motivation, the modeling, the mentoring of Miss Kamau. That's what it made me do. Anyway, let's go back to after I finished school. What
Mm,
happened was I started looking for work. And in my mind, I was thinking, if I can get work then I can now pay for my college, university, the courses that I can afford.
Mm.
So in the process of looking for work, I met a person who
Mm.
introduced me to a scholarship that was happening in Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the good thing.
Mm.
Not only were they giving the scholarship,
Mm.
they were giving what they called a stipend. My goodness.
Mm.
Oh, I thought I remembered myself thinking how I would go to my high school. And
Mm.
now that all came back to me. I said to myself, I am going there.
Mm.
And at that
I
time I
love
was
that
living,
combinations, really. Yeah. Very
yes,
inspiring.
and it's focus.
Mm.
You have to be focused. You have even even the good book, the Bible tells us.
Mm.
And again, you guys, I'll make references. I know a lot of my friends and many people listening here may not be of the Christian background, but I want you to hear my heart. Yeah. And and again, it's not about religion here. So
Mm.
I hope you don't feel offended. But these are principles of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
I get a lot of my principles from the books that I read, and one of the books that I read a lot is the scriptures, the Christian scriptures, the
Mm.
Bible.
Mm.
So when you hear me referencing that, it's because that's part of my, so don't feel offended about me mentioning my my background, my sort of religious background. But
Mm.
this is not about religion.
Mm.
This favor can be for you as well. So what I did was, I thought I'm going here. So again, that is focus. I wanted to say the Bible says, if you be single, if your eye be single,
Mm.
and that for me is focus, you will get that which you want, right? And also there's the belief. One of the main things that Jesus kept asking people who
Mm.
had breakthroughs, whether it's sickness, whether it's whatever, do you believe? So I believe that, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
anyway, I remember going for the audition,
Mm.
and I had practiced. And when I went, I remember it was Ben that interviewed me. Bless you, Ben, if you're listening. I know you're somewhere, I think in the US now. He
Mm.
was an amazing person. And he said, "You're in." And I'm
Mhm.
telling you,
How did you feel?
oh my God. I had, you know, you know, Amanda, tears,
Tears of
tears
joy.
of success.
Mm.
Because at that point, I was already not living in my family,
Mm.
because I left as soon as I finished high school. I
Mm.
knew I did not want to stay in that village.
Mm.
I did not want to be even associated with it,
Mm.
right? So I went to live with my auntie. And obviously, you cannot live in someone's house just doing nothing.
Mm. Mm.
So that's why so for me, it was such a relief. And also the knowing that I would get some money just to support me to to go to the college, and oh my God, I knew favor was upon me, right?
Amen.
But
Mm.
I want to mention something before
Mm.
before I before I go on. There is something I learned a long time ago, right?
Mm.
Again, I used to read. I went to Sunday school,
Mm.
and as a curious kid, I was a very questioning, curious kid,
Mm.
and I used to read my Bible, and in fact, I used to perform verses
Mm.
for competition, for church competition, and all that.
Mm.
That means these words, I would memorize them, and they would go into my heart, and I would believe them. And I remember reading, I think it's Psalms 139, that I am beautifully and wonderfully made.
Amen. Mm.
And I believed it. I
Mm.
mean, of course, everything else showed, you know, if someone looks at you, they think, how can that one even think they're beautiful and wonderful?
Mm.
You know, you look so shriveled, you look unhealthy, you've got no shoes, your skin is cracked and all. How can you? But in my heart, and once again, there is I come back to this thing of self development. What's inside you? What's
Mm.
inside you is what differentiates,
True.
I believe, successful people and those who are not. Right?
Mm.
And when I say success, I don't mean, of course, there's material stuff and everything, but there is that knowing that I am a child of the Most High God.
True. So you've gone to high school now. You've been successful in the audition. So what was life like?
Oh gosh, come
Mm.
on, you. So I'm staying here. At that time, I'm staying in Thika,
Uh,
and I'm staying with my auntie. And
mm.
it was, again, I did my best, right? So I'm
Mm.
doing my best. And at the same time, what I did, remember, I still have my vision of
Mm.
going to university.
Mm.
Uh, at the same time, I began to go and look for work in media houses, and I
Mm.
got them, right? And I
Mm.
got work, and then guess what I did with my
Mm.
first with some of my first pay?
Mm-hmm.
I went back to my school.
Mm.
Remember, they won't release my results.
Certificate, yeah.
They told me, but they won't release the paper. They won't release what they used to call a certificate of good conduct. I think I
Mm.
can't remember what. No, leaving certificate, right?
Mm.
Because I had such a big debt in school, right?
Mm.
So I get this money. The first thing I do is go back and get my pay and then get my certificate. And I was so excited. And then the other thing I did was actually go back home after a
Mm.
long time, a long time. Do you know, a mother, when I went back there,
Mm-hmm.
this actually really breaks I thought, when you think that something you're over it, but every time I talk about it, in fact, we talk about it with my brothers, my heart breaks because I went back there and obviously the situation was still the same. But what broke my heart most
Mm.
was to find my brothers home because they couldn't go to school.
Mm.
And one of them had actually been sent home because of school fees.
Mm.
And remember all the memories of me going to high school and being chased home, and they came flooding back. It was like,
Yeah.
when you talk about post-traumatic
Mm.
experiences,
Mm.
that's what I experienced there.
Mm.
And at that moment, I put aside my vision, my focus of
Mm.
going to higher education,
Mm.
and I purposed to educate my brothers. I said,
Oh.
none of you is going to be, you don't have to experience, it's too hurtful for a child.
Mm.
And from then on, I just
Mm.
paid for them. I started paying for them their school fees. All of the three of us, I've got three brothers,
Mm.
and all of them, all through. And of course, you can imagine, I'm also a young person, and
Were you the eldest child in your family?
I'm the oldest.
Mm.
So you can imagine, it's a big burden
Of
for
course, I can imagine at your age at the time.
yeah.
And
I was only about 19 or something.
mm.
I've only started getting money here and there.
Wow, and you're an amazing lady.
A mother,
Kudos to you. Mm.
I think we are blessed so that we can be a blessing, right?
True, that's very true.
And that's what I felt at that point. I put my dreams aside. I knew I was putting them aside, not
Mm.
giving up on them. There's
Mm.
a
Mm.
difference. There's a difference between giving
Yeah.
up
And they had
And
to wait a little bit.
absolutely. And I like what you say, just give it time a
Mm.
little bit. And after many years of taking them all through uh, high school, and they didn't, and I said to them, you don't have to experience being chased from school. It's
Mm.
and yeah, they
You didn't
went
want
on
them
and
to go through what you went through.
oh, it was too bad. It was just hurtful, right?
Mm.
So they finished at some point, and at that point, now because of my work, I was already I moved on to a more permanent job with
Mm.
with an NGO, right? And I started working there, so I was feeling more secure. And then at some point, I came to the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and I just finished paying for all
For your
of them.
papers
So
and
you can
clear the
imagine,
and clear the
there's
every bill.
4 years,
Mm-hmm.
4 years. It's a long time. It's because people ask me, so how did you do that? I can say
Mm.
it's it's because sometimes you have to put yourself aside, knowing that knowing that whatever you've planted will come back to you.
Mm.
And also, one of the things I believe, when you pay, when you sow in the right places, there's a lot of harvest. And I can tell you, here is the harvest.
Mm.
Now,
Mm.
my brothers and I, everyone is able to look after themselves.
Mm.
None of us has to beg from each other, which
Mm.
sometimes, if we don't support someone with the main basic stuff, they can end up relying on you forever.
That's very true.
Yeah. So for me, I was thinking, if I can get you this, I can get you this. In fact, for two of them, I even paid for their college, right?
Mm.
I thought, and then as they went on higher and higher, now it was a matter of, okay, I will loan you the money because I also don't want them to be, I don't want to be their God.
You don't want them to rely on you all the time, like,
No,
yeah.
and I don't want them to think I'm their God at
And that's
all.
another way of empowering them. I mean, give them a
Mhm.
sense of responsibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what began to happen is
Mm.
that now when they were in behind, I would say to them, I'll loan you this money. So
Mm.
they'd have to go and find stuff to do, work to do,
Mm.
and then they would give me back the money, right? And it worked so well because I used to say to them,
Mm.
we all came from the same place. I was never handed a silver spoon, right?
Mm.
So you
Mm.
can't say that I was lucky. I wasn't lucky.
Mm.
And what I have done, you can do that too.
Or even
And
more.
now, remember, you asked me how I started this work. Now, on reflection,
Mm.
I think I used to think it started with the young people I started because when I was working with the NGO and that, it was with
Mm.
young people.
Mm.
But now, right this minute, I'm thinking actually, this mentoring and modeling, it started with my brothers.
I
It
see.
actually started, this is the, I've never thought of it like that. This is the first time I'm thinking of it like that
Mm.
because I started being the person that I was asking them to be,
Mm.
asking them to rise higher because that's what mentoring is about. I'm
Yeah.
sharing my story, telling them, you can do this because I did it. And you guys have watched me grow.
Mm.
It's not that you know that this has happened, whatever is happening to you has happened to me.
Mm.
So that was
And
my journey, and I'm so thankful for that. And then obviously when I came to the UK,
mm.
I I continued to work with young people. In fact, one of my first jobs was at a Young Offenders Institute,
Mm.
and then at that point I began to study for my psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
then obviously I studied. I was so interested,
Mm.
uh, and I qualified, and I continued to work with young people. And then a couple of years ago, I saw a gap. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I work with parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I would see, both from research and also observing young people that I was mentoring and young people that I was working with, was yes, we are empowering these young people, but I only have an hour with them,
Mm-hmm.
but the parents have all the rest of the time with them. And I started thinking, what if the parents had these skills,
Mm-hmm.
these, you know, and that, remember I said to you about this model. What
Mm-hmm.
if the parents knew about how to be a model,
Mm-hmm.
how to be a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and how to be a motivator?
Mm-hmm.
Then the kids would not just have to rely on me, who only spends 1 hour with them, possibly 1 hour a week.
Mm-hmm.
The parents would learn to speak life into their kids
True.
all of the time, right?
Mm.
They
I
would
love
learn
that.
to authentically share, because a lot of things we see is, a lot of parents,
Mm.
and I know myself, I've been guilty. So you guys don't think there's anything special. I'm also parenting a teenager at the
Mm.
moment, and
So
we
let me
have the
take you
youth.
back, Angie. Yeah, that's a very, very, again, another great remark. You want to include parents because they are the ones who spend a lot of hours with their children, and if they have those tools to use, they would help their children to raise remarkable teenagers, as you just mentioned. So you grew up in an abusive family. You've gone through all that. You've managed. You've been so resilient. You've been empowering your siblings, and you're looking out to the community to empower them because of your experience. You don't want anyone go through the same pain you've endured. But Angie, did you also think of having a family or having any relationship with a man or whatever, just to make a family, or was it scary for you to go through what you saw maybe your parents going through?
Wow, I'm so glad you asked that, Martha, because
Mm.
I'm so glad you asked that, and it's a very valid question. Initially, I kept saying to myself, I will never get married. I will
Mm-hmm.
never get a relationship, because if this is what a relationship looks like,
Mm-hmm.
this is death. This is, I saw my mother constantly being put down, being beaten, sleeping outside, you
Mm.
know, horrible stuff, right?
Mm.
And then obviously the person did the same to us. And I was thinking, I don't want this,
Mm.
right? But then here is where biology comes in.
I
it,
love that.
it does, because as I grew, I went to college,
Mm.
I started thinking, actually, I can make a life for myself. It doesn't have to be that way. I can change something. I'm going
Mm.
to be different. So obviously I got into relationships, right? And I, unfortunately, mother,
Mm.
let me tell you the danger of actually not healing from the trauma that we've endured.
Mm.
You meet someone, you meet with other people who are in the same level. When they say birds of a feather flock together,
Mm.
it's not just a nice saying. It's a very spiritual and a very scientific
So
thing.
you practically attracted someone who has the same wound and pain as you.
Absolutely,
Right.
right? And that is what we call trauma bonding, right?
Mm.
At
Mm.
that time, of course, you don't know, you are feeling in love.
Mm.
Someone is telling you all the nice things, and
Mm.
you're also, you're feeling special for the first time. This, you grew up somewhere, people dismissing you, people treating you like rubbish and all that. But now you come here, you're feeling the love, and also your body, our bodies. Let's be honest, guys. I think everyone that's listening here is over 13, right?
mm,
We have those bodily desires, right? And that is for women is to be wanted by another by a man. You feel, let's say, their sexual feelings, right? And the man also has the same, right? And that is and that is a very biological thing, because that is how we end up procreating. Because if we didn't have that, we would not procreate. But so anyway, here I'm in love and everything, and then I didn't realize. Now when I look back, the relationship was toxic from day one. And it's things like, someone following you to find out where you are, someone, someone appearing in places where they shouldn't be, but you're there. And like
coercive control.
Yeah, it is. Right now that we can, but at that time I didn't know. Right. In fact, let me be very authentic. At that time, I thought it was nice. Because at home, no one bothered with me. Right? But obviously, when you and I know, and most women that are listening here, and even most men, that when it comes to abusive relationships, it's about power and control. Yeah. So it went on like that, and I started feeling this doesn't feel right. And then, unfortunately, if you don't deal with it, it just escalates. It gets worse. So it moved on to, oh, you think you're all that? You're stupid.
Really?
You'll amount to nothing. And I'm thinking, this doesn't sound right. Me, I think I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. But someone else is telling me they're ugly. I'm ugly, and they are my partner. It doesn't feel right. But I don't know what to do. It's a bit better than what I saw at home. So I stay. And then it goes on. You're being put down. You're being put down, and it continues. Now, the words. Remember we talked about words, nasty words towards you. And you're thinking, oh, this doesn't, it doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. And then there were suggestions like, and again, like you said, coercive control, things like, for example, the things you like to do, they will say something nasty about it so that you can stop doing it.
And you have your dreams, you have your ambitions, and someone trying to kill them, right?
Absolutely. Now, this is where I began to feel, now this doesn't sound right. Remember, I'm a grown woman now. I'm doing well for myself, but this is happening to me, right? So when someone starts telling you that, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't achieve that. Clipping, like clipping your wings, clipping your wings, clipping your wings, clipping your wings. It doesn't feel right in your gut. But unfortunately, in abusive relationships, the person, they're not bad all the time. So I kept hanging on to the good times. Yeah, I kept hanging on to the good times.
Hoping that there will be some changes. How long did that relationship last?
For many years.
Really?
And I'll tell you something. Nothing changes until we change, until we do something.
Love that.
And that is both a spiritual thing and also a scientific thing, right? It's so In fact, I always say that now again, it's on reflection.
Mm.
By the time it comes to being physically abused, which I was, in fact, I'll tell you that in a minute,
Mm.
a lot of emotional abuse has happened, a
Mm.
lot of put down, a lot of put down, a
Mm.
lot of verbal. Now, even when I think about it,
Mm.
some of the words that the person said,
Mm.
when I spoke to my counselor, because I had to go for counseling after that, because after we divorced, I had to go for counseling because
Mm.
I began to have, I had adult acne.
Mm.
Again, remember when I spoke about psychosomatic disorders?
Mm.
That was one of the, I had it.
Mm.
I even in my teenage years, I never had acne. And
Mhm.
then I developed this ugly, ugly acne. They could not explain what the matter was.
Mm.
Now, obviously, now I know that is what it was
Mm.
after my studies and after working with with people who have undergone this kind of trauma.
Mm.
So the person beat me up,
Beat you?
and obviously that was the first time the person laid hands on me.
Mm.
Remember,
Mm.
I'll tell you something. Before then,
Mm.
remember I said to you, it escalates. There had been throwing things my way,
Mm.
you know, throwing things my way. You know, sometimes I'll run into the bathroom and he'd put um, his fist through the through the door, right,
Mm.
coming
Mm.
for me, right. So it was all that, and then this day
Mm.
it hit me, and I thought, no, this can't be. That's the
Mm.
day I began to think, oh my God, I'm living the life my mom lived.
Mm.
I am living the life, and I said, no, no.
Mm.
When I thought about that, I said, no, 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 no. And I remember calling my mom, my aunties, their mom,
Mm.
and unfortunately, again, this is, for them, that is nothing. They said that was nothing.
That's what I was about to ask. For someone who has been in abusive relationship and take it as part of life, and at some point you want to tell them that this has happened, what kind of advice would you get from that person who has endured pain for
You,
over 20
you,
years
you,
and plus, and they still in that marriage, in that abusive marriage, and that's a parent of your partner? You want to tell them what you're going through. What would you expect from them, and what did you really hear from them?
do you know what? Now, again, all these things are on reflection.
Mm.
They are not the right people to go to.
Mm-hmm.
They are just not the right people.
Mm.
Yeah. Because there is there is a nice quote I like
Mm.
that says, if you want to go, if you want to fly,
Mm.
if you want to go on a journey of flying,
Mm.
don't ask someone who has never taken that journey.
Mm.
Of course, I didn't know. I was looking for support,
Mm.
and that's nothing. Oh, you're complaining about something. It's only small. It's a small thing. Oh, you don't know what we've gone through.
Mm.
They're giving me details of what, and I'm
Mm.
thinking, surely. And now that wasn't the first time. Then it happened again, and it
Mm.
happened again. And I remember calling my friends and saying to them, this is happening. Of course, they won't believe it. Why?
Mm.
Because
Mm.
we always, as a couple, you put a smile
Mm.
and walk out. And unfortunately, these people are it's public relationships for them.
Mm.
So in the public, they're everything. You can't fault them.
Mm.
but unfortunately behind closed doors,
Mm.
menacing. And that's how they destroy people, because
Mm.
there's no witness. People won't believe you. But I thank God that
Mm.
as many of us begin to speak, and many women are speaking, for example, I can say the government here is beginning to recognize
Mm.
this is a real thing. This is something that's killing many women.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you die physically,
Mm.
if you don't die physically and you're in that situation, you die figuratively. Because when your dreams are stolen,
Mm-hmm.
when you're living in mental pain, it's like you're dead.
True.
When you're a puppet in someone's hands, you're nothing, right? So anyway, it went on like that, and it was like there was talk. So I'm gonna change. In fact, I even asked we go for couples therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, that's another thing. You go and they
You
play
try
the
to
part.
save that marriage, really.
Yeah, and then when you come out of there, oh, the abuse I got. How could you go and tell people about us and all that and all?
Mm.
Oh, anyway,
Mm.
so at one point he beat me. He came in and beat me up. And that's when I said no. I
Mm.
called the police. The
Mm.
person was taken away, and that was the beginning of our separation.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if you are from an African
Mm-hmm.
background,
Mm-hmm.
you know how separation and divorce is viewed. So everyone is like, no, 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 this, you can work this out, you can work this out, you can work. But I remember saying, no, you guys don't know what I've been through.
Definitely not. And that's how they started, shaming the victim.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
don't know what I've been through. And again, unfortunately,
Mm.
the woman, the wife,
Mm.
is in the wrong. And I'll tell you what even made it even worse was the Bible verses being quoted for me, that
Mm-hmm.
the woman is the one that keeps the home. It was the whole burden was on me.
I can imagine, really. All you have religion, you have culture, you have
Yeah,
family, you have everything all pointing fingers on you.
on the
And
woman.
and you have to defend or justify your position all the time.
And I
Mm.
was asking myself, Amanda, I was asking myself, why are you not quoting the verse in the Bible that the man's supposed to love their wife and be
Mm.
nice? Why
You
are you
know,
not quoting the verse that says that if you treat your wife badly, your prayers will not be heard? Why are you not quoting these submit to each other? Why are you not quoting those? But you're quoting the ones that makes me continue to be enslaved in
Mm.
this unhealthy relationship.
Relationship. Yeah.
I stood strong.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, it's not easy.
I can imagine, really. I
It's
can
not
feel your pain.
easy.
Yeah.
But at some point, it came to a point, oh, this person has changed and everything. And you know what? I decided, okay, let's give it a go again.
After the police has taken him.
Let's give it a go again.
Mm.
Do you know this? I think we got back. It didn't even last a month.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, it didn't even last a month
Mm.
because that day, this is a day again I remember like it gives me shivers.
Mm.
Because when the police came, the policewoman said to me, Angela, if you don't leave, this person's going to kill you.
Mm.
Do you know, in the morning, early in the morning, on a Monday morning, I woke up. I thought we were being attacked by thieves,
Mm.
only to actually open my eyes and discover, oh, it's this person, like it's the person,
Mm.
grappling your neck, like bouting your neck. It's like,
Oh my God. Eh?
and I
That's
thought, oh my God, oh my. And I remember jumping out of his hands,
mm.
going to the next room, and I called the police
Mm.
because I thought, yeah, I'm going to die today.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought I was going to, because, in the morning when you just wake up, you're
Mm.
very, in fact, I was not awake. Remember, in the morning, early in the morning, you're very vulnerable. First of all, I was in a very small, lacy something. So you're almost naked. And then you're not fully awake. It's not like lunchtime, you've eaten, you're
Mm.
strong.
Mm.
And
Mm.
you could easily, when I think about it, the police was very correct. You could easily get killed. Wow, I tell you.
Mm.
Anyway, I called them and the person left. And this is the interesting thing.
Mm.
They went to work like nothing had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So when the police came, I I was there crying, swollen, like, in fact, I had a split lip,
Mm.
and I'm thinking, God, what is this? And that time we had, obviously, the daughter was about, she was about, now this is after going back for the
Mm.
1 month. She was
Mm.
about 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when I said this is enough, she was 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the reasons I said this can't happen, remember I said about I'm living the life my mom lived?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, if I continue here,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
um, do you know when the police came, I had to
Mm.
lock her in the room so that she didn't see
What was happening?
what was happening?
That would be again another traumatic event. You didn't want to.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And the policewoman told me, Angela, if you don't leave, this guy is going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it came flashing in my head. I was like, oh my God, you mean I could be killed?
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy is going to go to jail for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
then
you
my
leave your
daughter,
child.
and then
Mm-hmm.
my daughter is going to be taken by social services.
Mm-hmm.
That for me was the deciding factor. I knew. Do you know
Mm.
when you know that you're not going to go? There's no even space for ever going back.
Mm.
I knew that I would never be with that person anymore. And that was it. Was the journey easy? Has the journey been easy?
I can
No.
imagine that journey really of giving many chances to like trying to make things better. But at the end of the day, again, yeah, you leave the relationship after again being, wounded.
Mhm.
Those invisible scars, and plus you had possibly the visible ones, but again trying to work it out, trying to consult the family, trying to, and again being blamed at the end of it all. So how did it feel when you left that relationship? What was it like? I mean, the family, your family, his family, friends, knowing that this is the end of their relationship, did they try to persuade you to like go back and trying to work it out?
Oh, of course.
Mm.
Of course they did. And this time I knew that was never going to happen.
Mm.
That was never going to happen. There was a lot of conversations. This person is not a bad person. This person. And I'm thinking, you want me to be killed. You want him to go to jail. And
Mm-hmm.
you want our child to go and be, because they're not going to bring, this is their kid, this is their
Mm.
British, they're not going to take you to you to look out, to look after it. No.
Mhm.
And I said, no, that's not what I gave birth to my daughter for. I gave
Mm.
birth to her to look after her, to bring up a child,
Mm. A
a
happy one.
child in a
Mm.
healthy environment,
Mm.
right? And you know what? I'm gonna be very honest.
Mm.
There comes a point you just cut communication.
Mm.
I decided the only way to save myself and be sane, I was going to cut communication with all of them, even my mom for some time.
Mm.
And I remember she came over. She came over to the UK at some point because we were still in conversation, but not as much.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the truth is, everyone you have ever been in contact with,
Mm.
you really can't say that you never had. I mean, for example, the man, he's still there. I cannot, and I have this child, but
Mm-hmm.
you can never say that you'll never have contact with them,
Mm.
especially when there's a child, right?
Mm.
So I had to really work on myself to anchor myself.
Mm.
One of the things I realized the mother I didn't have
Mm.
was boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have firm boundaries at all. And
Mm.
that's why I was enmeshed into such, into such toxicity, right?
Mm. Mm.
And I began to work on myself to
Mm-hmm.
have to be. And here is something. You think that people who are confident and all, it's not. There is something about when you're wounded. When you're wounded, you will tend to merge with other people, like I said about trauma bonding, with other people who are in the same situation, because we call it the level of vibration. For
Mm.
example, put the, if you want music, which is on 105,
Mm.
if you tune your radio to 105, the only music you will hear is the music that's playing at 105.
Mm.
So when I'm wounded, I will meet other people who are wounded. Again, birds of a feather. On a very scientific level, on a
Mm.
very spiritual level, you will meet the people who are on your same level, no matter how much you try to say, oh, that's not my kind.
You
Because these are
just
matters
still
of the
attract
heart.
them.
Yes.
Mm.
So that is one of the things. And I decided to work on myself,
Mm-hmm.
work on my, and
Talk
I
about
remember,
that part of working on yourself. How
mhm.
did you do it?
First of all, I went for counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I realized, oh my God, so much background pain. There's so much, there's so much clog, I would say,
Mm.
and which obviously led me to this. And
Mm.
then this has compounded it.
Mm.
And if I don't do something, Amelda, I'm going to pass this on to my
The
child.
next. Mm.
And there is a verse in the Bible that says, that the parents have eaten sour grapes, and
Mm.
now their children's teeth are on edge
Mm.
because of what we have, what we are, and what we don't sort out in our lifetime. Our children will have to deal with it, and in compounded measure. You know why? Because
Mm.
when you don't deal with trauma, the next generation, it's compounded because it's yours plus theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And then these days we say children of these days,
Mm.
they're, because we didn't bother to clean up ourselves.
Mm.
And that's why, first of all, we cannot, we're coming on to them with our wounds, and then we are bleeding on them,
Mm.
right? And obviously when you bleed on someone, when you abuse someone,
Mm.
they have their own hurts. So theirs plus yours plus the former generation, it's, you know, when people talk about generation curses, this is real. This is real even on a very psychological basis, because trauma compounds. If we don't process it, it compounds. So anyway, I went for counseling, and I discovered a lot of wounds within me, psychological wounds. And then when my mom came, I remember having a conversation, a very deep conversation. I don't think many of us, especially African parents, we don't have these conversations with our parents because we think they're untouchable, or because we have been conditioned to think that questioning our parents is disrespectful.
It's a taboo.
Yeah. But we had this conversation, and I remember telling her how staying in that relationship and the abuse, and you know what? My mom just looked at me and she said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what else to do." So she was operating on her level of consciousness. She did not know what to do. Now, we're not saying that we excuse people because they don't know what they're doing. But at that point, I remembered Jesus on the cross saying, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." That was the exact same thing. You have to let go. But we have to let go with a higher awareness, not pretend it didn't happen, because most of us pretend it didn't happen. Yet we were wounded. So we don't do anything. We don't speak to our parents about these things. And even, unfortunately, some parents, if you speak to them, they'll be like, "No, that's nothing. I didn't do anything wrong." And that even makes things worse, because you're the one that experienced the abuse, right? So I just, at that point, I let it go. And do you know, I was in my 30s. And that was the first time I began to have a relationship with my mother. Because I had absolutely no condemnation for her. She owned up, and for me, the reason, like I said, if I did not stop holding on to the hurts, I know I would have passed them on to my daughter. Because bleeding people bleed on others. When you are hurt like that, you're like a landmine. And what do landmines do, Amanda?
Collapse.
They explode every time you get near it. It explodes, isn't it? And what does that do? That means it's impossible to have a close relationship with your kids when you are wounded, because you're a landmine.
And they see, they feel.
They know, they feel. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So and if any of you doubts that we are spiritual beings, and we know and feel, especially our people close to us, have you ever entered a room and you feel, "Oh, there's something, I don't know what it is, but it's like people are not happy." They haven't told you they're not happy. Maybe they're even putting on smiles, but you can feel something is not right.
Atmosphere, sir.
The atmosphere, that vibration that we call, in science, we call it the field. The field, we can, there is that, your thoughts and your feelings emit a field.
Sorry.
People can feel.
Yeah, go on. I was about to ask regarding a mother in a very abusive relationship, by having children and contemplating between staying in that relationship for the sake of the children, knowing that she's not happy and possibly she's never going to be happy for the rest of her life as long as she's in that relationship. But she is there for her children because she wants her kids to have both parents, or because her church community would see her otherwise, or because the family members would see her otherwise. How do you like advise in terms, because the main point here, she's trying to protect her children. She's trying to create a safe environment for the children because she wants the children to see both mom and dad, but she's not happy in the process. What would you tell such a parent? And what do you think they'll raise, and the kind of children they'll be raising in terms of, you know, like you're saying, remarkable teenagers? Are they going really to be remarkable? No.
The question is, are you really staying for your children? Are you really safe? If you ask yourself those questions, deep in your heart, you know they are not true. You are staying for your image. You are staying because of what the culture will say. You are staying because of what people, your church will say, or your mosque will say. Those are the reasons. You're trying to protect your image. It is not for the safety of your children. Because we know that children who are brought up in abusive relationships have a lot of psychological damage. And that's even if they've never seen you being hit or slapped or beaten. Because remember, like you said, there's that tension, right? There's that tension. And some people say, oh, if we fight in the bedroom, it's okay. But then what happens is the children feel the tension. And then we know that their imagination, it's even better that when they see you being hit, they have seen you being hit. But when it's happening behind closed door, their imagination goes wild, right? It thinks of things that are probably even not happening. And the damage that does to a child,
it's enormous.
It's enormous. It is horrible. It is absolutely horrible. So don't say that you're staying for your children. In fact, you're harming them more. You're harming them more. My mother told me that she was staying for us. And I said, what?
Yet you had your first deep conversation with her when you were in your 30s.
Yes.
But she was staying for you.
She was staying for us. And I said, do you understand the damage you did for us? You did to us? Here is what we know. Children would rather have two separated parents. They fare better when they have two separated parents and there's no strife than when you're there together trying to put up a face, trying to put up appearances. You're just damaging them. So my advice to parents is, of course, you never tell anyone to leave, because it's not in my place. And also,
we're not advocating for divorce here.
No. That's not what we want. What we advocate is for healthy relationships. And it's up to you to decide, is this healthy? Is it safe for myself and for my children? And one thing I forgot to say, Martha, was during that conversation with my mom, I had, you know what you call aha moments. Do you know, I had judged my mom so harshly about her putting us through everything that she put us through. Now, I was put in the exact same situation. I was in the exact same position with her.
Mm.
So now, me who has judged her for so long,
Mm.
what are you going to do? And I
Differently.
can tell you, it's not easy.
Mm.
It's not easy leaving a relationship. It's not easy leaving your dreams. Because when you got with this person, no one gets into a relationship so you can break up. No,
No.
we all get there hoping that it's going to work out, it's going to be nice, we're going to
Mm.
live happily ever after.
Mm.
And then things don't work, and we try to hold on, we try to do our best until some of us escape with our wounds, or some of them are killed in there. And when I say killed, some of them are killed, you actually die and you're in the coffin.
Of course, we've seen
And
those
others,
cases. Mm.
you're dead, but you're there.
Emotionally dead.
Emotionally dead.
Mm.
Your dreams are dead. You know, you're a shadow of yourself.
Mm.
But it's our choice. We have to come to that place. I never tell anyone to leave, because everyone has to come to that point
Mm.
where they say, this is not
Enough
safe.
is enough. Mm.
Yeah, it's not safe for me. It's not safe for my kids. And like Amanda, you said, enough is enough.
Mm.
And when someone is at that point, enough is enough, you know that they have made their decision. And now the next step is, how can we support them?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can tell you the recovery journey, because
Mm-hmm.
I also work with women who have left abusive relationships, but they remain stuck. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason we remain stuck is because you just can't believe this is not what you wanted.
You feel like a loser at some point.
Absolutely. You feel like a loser, even though you are the one betrayed and battered and shattered. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like you've lost. And some people remain stuck for a very long time.
Mm.
Some people remain stuck forever. Some people remain stuck for a few. Some people remain, you can even move on to another relationship, but you're still wounded.
Mm.
And then, unfortunately, you go into that one, the same thing happens, and you see people moving from one to the next, and it's happening again and again and again.
So did you after that, obviously after that relationship was ended, did you find another love of your life? And how long did it take you to decide if this was a right move?
Person. Right? Oh gosh, that's so good you asked that. You're asking very beautiful questions, and Martha, I like it. So after that happened, it was me working to heal,
Mm.
because I realized that, again, if I don't heal, I'm not going to be a great mother.
Mm.
And because I still believe in, I still believe in marriage. I still believe in having a healthy relationship. I
Mm.
believe that in this one, I chose wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was toxic,
Mm.
right? But that, just because you've made a mistake doesn't mean you stay and wallow in that hole forever.
Mm.
No, otherwise we'll never live to the full, right? So
Mm.
I worked on myself, and then I think that was 2008, a long time ago. Gosh, now it's a long time ago. And
Mm.
I think after about 4, 5 years,
Mm.
I began to feel ready. And when I began to feel ready,
Mm.
here is what I did.
Mm.
I wrote what I wanted down.
Right.
I wrote it down. I said, this is where I am at. This is who I want.
Mm.
And I just wrote it down. And it was not about the size, the color, it was nothing of physical stuff, right?
Mm.
I can tell you what I wrote. I wrote the person, like they're emotionally healed. I wrote things like they're financially stable. I wrote things like they're sexually healed and sexually stable. I wrote things like they're physically fit. And I remember that. And obviously, because I had a daughter at that point, I wrote down that they were going to accept my daughter just as she is, right? And obviously, my daughter has a relationship with her dad. So this person was not going to come and think I'm going to take over and this is my child, this is my daughter. That wasn't going to happen because it would create again for those of us who are single parents who with children, we have to be careful about again re-traumatizing the child when we get into relationships because especially if your child is seeing the dad, they will still have contact. That is still their dad.
Of course.
Yeah. And a lot of us make the mistake of like when you get a person, oh, now this is your dad, this is your, this one comes before. And that, again, it just creates dissonance in the kid's mind. And those are some, so I wrote that down. Again, I thank God for awareness, for knowing. But I became a learner, I needed to learn because I did not want to make the same mistake again. And this one would mean I'm not only making another mistake for me, I'm making a mistake for my daughter. Yeah. It was like it was a heavyweight decision for me. So anyway, I wrote everything down and I can tell you, Martha, I went for many days. And thank God for discernment because I met so many people and, I knew every time I met them, I knew, just conversations because I was anchored and I knew what I wanted. So when in conversations, I was speaking things, and I'm like, I remember one person I really liked on a date, and they said, oh, my kids are this age and this age, they were teenagers. I'm not going to mention the exact age. And then they said, but I haven't seen my kids for over 8 months. And I was like, oh, why? Oh, well, I can't really be bothered because the mother is difficult and all that. And I was thinking, I have a child. I'm thinking, if you can't even bother about your own kids, your own flesh and blood, how can I trust you to be bothered about me?
Yeah, that was a red flag, definitely.
That was an outright red flag for me. By the way, he ticked almost everything else apart from that one thing. But I was going to give him a second date. Again, I had so much dissonance because I was thinking, oh, this one, like this is bad, this is so nice, But then I said, no, I will not shortchange myself. And I just let it go. And I just said, no, in a text, no, I don't think we are having a second date. And obviously there's them asking what's the problem and all that. But because I wasn't so vested in it, you just don't answer anymore. And then there were others, and the reason I say this is it's important, especially if you're dating for the second time after you've been in an abusive relationship. It's very important to have healed and also to know what you're looking for. Because if you don't know what you're looking for,
you fall into the same
trap, and also you won't even know when it's there. So then I went on, and I think it was 2013 is when I went on a date with this person that I am with.
Mm.
Again, I looked at, and again we gelled, and I was like, oh, this one looks like almost too good to be true. Again, you're ticking everything, you're ticking at all the boxes, and then I thought, okay, let's see how this goes.
Mm.
And we met again, and then again, and then but the first time we met, I thought, oh, this one does actually tick the box. And
Mm.
actually, he had been a single father. He had raised his kid was already, he had
Mm.
got his kid, I think he was 20 or 20 years old.
Mm.
And the kid was already a grown up now. He wasn't living with him. I think he was 18. Was he 18? No, anyway, let's
Yeah.
not go to the
Yeah.
details. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's
When
what,
he was
that's
ready.
what,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah. So that's what happened. And, that I looked it up, and I was like, this this is a person that that I would like to spend my time with.
Mm.
And I'll say something. In fact, I've never said to, well, my friends know, I've said it to them, but
Mm.
I've never said it even to my,
Publicly.
yeah,
Mm.
public, even to my people, the clients that I work with.
Mm.
And Martha, I think you're making me, there's something about you that is making me
Open
just
up.
unleash, which is great, right?
Mm. Mm.
You know this thing called Clare's Law?
Mm-hmm.
You know the Clare's Law, where you can find out someone's history?
I don't know about them really.
Yeah, there is it only came not a long time ago. It only came a few years ago.
Mm.
But right this minute, I'm thinking, actually, I practice that Clare's Law, because what I did,
Mm.
because again of my experience,
Mm.
I decided, let me find out. This is a person I have met.
Mm.
I have met as an older person. I
Mm.
am older, so I don't know their history, right? I could be here thinking it's all good on the surface, but there's a
You
lot
don't
of
know their criminal records.
oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into it, and I asked him all these questions. Now, when we got to going out, like dating, we were dating now,
Mm.
officially. I got to ask him these questions. I was not afraid of asking these questions, because I was
Mm.
like, first of all, it's my life. I want to know where I'm going. So I
Mm.
asked him. In fact, the most interesting thing is I asked him for his former girlfriend's number.
Mm.
I was like, oh, what do you want to do with this? I said, I want to find out from her the real reason why you actually separated,
Mm-hmm.
and whether this, because if any of this characteristic was in, if you've been abusive to the person, you're most likely going to be abusive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was shocked. He was like, oh, do you think? I said, I would like to have that. That's all I'm asking you. And
Mm-hmm.
I would like to, and do you know what?
Mm.
He gave it to me,
Mm.
and I spoke to the person, which
Wow.
was very, yeah, which was very strange,
Mm-hmm.
because now today is when I'm thinking, gosh, I actually practice that Clare's Law. You check someone's background and all that, and then we even checked that as well,
Mm.
because I was like, and remember, I'm coming to a person. I mean, at that time when I was doing all these checks, I
Mm-hmm.
had not introduced him to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
We have to guard our children, especially when we come into these new relationships, right?
Mm.
And also friendships, because again, you don't want your daughter to be seeing you with this person, because they're learning. They might think that's the normal thing to do.
Mm.
So anyway, after that, I began to feel actually safe. And
Mm-hmm.
then a couple of months down the line is when I introduced my daughter to him. And here's the interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
Remember that list I had written about what I want in a man?
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, then she was about 7. She said to me, Mommy, has he got all these things? And I said, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
However, we will find out. And also, you can ask him.
Mm-hmm.
Then she was like, I'm going to show him all these things that you want. I said, no, don't show him.
That's an interesting part of it.
Yeah, because remember, we are coming now
Mm,
as a package, really, I would say, right?
mm,
I call it a package because it's going to affect all of us. It's not just
mm,
me having a relationship with a man.
mm,
It's the three of us, right? It's
mhm.
the three of us. So yeah, so that's what happened, and then we got together, and then we are a couple now,
Well done.
and I am so thankful because it took some time, but
I like, sorry, I like the fact that you actually had a moment to discover yourself, to realize that you've gone through a lot of, painful situation. You've endured all those traumatic events and you needed to heal.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
you worked on your healing process and you gave yourself time and you didn't want to bleed on someone and you wanted someone who is already also the healing already healed.
mhm.
So that's a very good process. I think that's really it's my takeaway. It could be anybody's takeaway. Realizing ourselves, knowing that we need to work on the process of healing ourselves. It's a very beautiful thing. And well done for that, Angie. Yeah, I'm so glad you came here on Inspire. I'm sure a lot of people are going to find this really an interesting conversation that we just heard. So you are working on raising remarkable teenagers again because of your past experiences. You don't want any other person to go through what you went through. You want to empower families, parents, and children. So how do people get in touch? How do they come to you? And how do you help them?
Oh, thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you. You're very, very kind, and I appreciate you. Yes, as you can
Thank you.
see, those who are watching the video, or if you're just listening, how you can contact me is coming to our website, which is raisingremarkableteenagers.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to shoot me an email, it's Angie at raisingremarkableteenagers.com. On my social handles, my full name is Angela Karanja. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Martha will possibly put something down there.
I will.
And yeah, so I have programs for parents who have left abusive relationships and are wanting to heal,
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, I, I I want us to be the best parents to our young people, no matter what has happened to us. No matter how broken or betrayed we were, I want us to be able to connect. And we can't connect until we heal. And
Sure.
that program is actually called Reclaim You. So you reclaim you. And
That's,
again, that one is on raisingremarkableteenagers.com, and
mm-hmm.
it's /reclaim you. And then we have teenagers programs. And then I also have programs for parents as leadership,
Mm-hmm.
parenting as leadership. So if you want to come, you may not have experienced the gory experiences that some of us have experienced, but you may just be wanting to step up as a leader, an influential leader, and especially in the parenting teenagers is not a walk in the park. I always compare it with it's like championship football, right? You can't play championship football from with the same way you played in your back garden.
Mm-hmm.
No, you
You've
you
got to
have
be
to
trained.
you have to
Professional
step
training.
up. You
Mm-hmm.
have to step up. You have to learn new ways. And this is just about leadership. But you can find us there. And yeah, so if you search Raising Remarkable Teenagers, I can say we are very blessed. We are all over the place. We are I mean, I am a world-renowned psychologist. So if you search my name on Google, you will find all the work that we are doing with parents. And actually, I forgot to mention this. Maybe I want to mention this. I am also the royal parenting uh, expert commentator.
Mm-hmm.
So, which again is favor, and I'm also a best-selling author. So again, favor, right?
What's your book called?
Oh, my book is called Smuggled, right?
Our gold. Wow.
So yeah, so I
Next time, I think we have to come here for just
look,
that book. Oh, love it. Look at you. Next time, we're going to talk about this book, guys.
yes,
Mm.
this particular one
Mm-hmm.
is about teenage exploitation.
Mm.
So how are our kids getting trafficked and exploited
Mm.
whilst they are right under our noses, right? So
Wow, wow. What can I say? Oh my God, I'm so thrilled. Thank you so much, Angela. This was really amazing.
oh, thank you
I don't
so
know if you have your last message to the viewers, what you want to tell them, maybe otherwise we could just end our conversation today. I really thank you so much for your time, and I'm hoping to have you again here on Inspire End Time soon because you are such an inspirational lady.
Thank you so much, Amanda. What I would say, the very last thing I'd like to say, especially to parents who are listening,
Mm,
is consider yourself as a leader and therefore seek to learn because leaders are learners.
mm,
And again, that's why I said we have programs. And a lot of our programs are free. So don't be put off by thinking, oh, I don't know where I can get this. I don't know where I can get this. And obviously, with my expertise, both as a professional psychologist as well as a parent,
mhm,
we have this community where it's a no shame, no blame community. We know that we all go through stuff. Our teenagers,
mm,
especially,
mm,
they show us dust. They kick us in our teeth. So don't think, oh, this is only happening to me. Oh,
mm,
when you come into the community, you will hear stories. You're like, oh my God, this is the community I've been missing
mm,
because we are authentic, right? We
mm.
speak about our experiences, no shame, no blame. That's all I can say. So yeah,
Wow.
find us at raisingremarkableteenagers.com and let's connect. Let's connect.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Angela. You enjoy the rest of your evening. I think it's already night. See you next time and have a great time.
Thank you so much, Emerita, for this opportunity. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.